Welcome to another edition of the Around the NFL broadcast. My name is Dan Hansis. Come to you from a virtual room filled with some heroes. Greg Rosenthal, Mark Sessler. Boys, we got a big one today. Around the AFC West. Rookie man crushes. And yes, a little bit of a conversation about the greatest quarterback of his generation. Just that as well.
What, Tom Brady? We're talking Tom Brady on the show, or no?
Seriously. Talk about a
All
man
right.
crush.
I mean, listen, you could say that Tom Brady is more successful than Aaron Rodgers, but I like to think Rodgers is the most supremely talented quarterback of the last 15 years. That's a whole other debate. Okay, we're not going to say who's better, but he is, to me, a top 10 quarterback all time, and he's coming off his third MVP, and he doesn't want anything to do with the Green Bay Packers anymore. So let us start there. He's told teammates that he has no plans to return to Green Bay a year after Jordan Love was drafted in the first round to be his replacement. Mark, where do you come down on this? Because it feels like Rodgers has leverage here, but at the same time, the Packers, they can just sit and do nothing and let this process play out. He's under contract.
I mean, technically he doesn't have leverage, but the way that, star athletes, there's only a couple of them that are even in the same hemisphere as Aaron Rodgers, could force a different destiny, I guess, at some point. to me, I feel like the football gods have been working in overdrive on signal caller discontent this offseason. It's like every month it's a new agitated quarterback. Part of me would like to just fast forward to the end result because, I find it a bit of a stage play, and there's a lot of sort of external power and a lot of respect me. And I think it does track back a little bit to Tom Brady, who, if he can lead the New England Patriots, go to a new organization and be heard, listened to, have players surround him, guys like Gronk, guys that he wants, and within a calendar year win a Super Bowl, I think a lot of people are looking around and thinking, wait a minute, can I change my fortunes too? And I just think there's also with Aaron Rodgers a history here of, problems with the Packers, who are kind of a weirdly run organization structurally, Greg.
They are not letting him go, though. I mean, it took Tom Brady a long time and setting up contracts in a certain way and getting over 40 and winning those Super Bowls after he was 40 in New England to finally get free. The Packers are not letting him win games with the Broncos or the Raiders this year. That's the worst result for them. Him sitting out is the second worst, and him playing for them is the best. And I think that's what'll happen because the teammates that I care about are not the anonymous ones that got this report out there. It's the ones like James Jones on our network saying he believes it can be fixed, that he talks to Aaron Rodgers, and firing the GM is not something that he's interested in. It's former teammates like John Kuhn talked on a radio show this week. He also thought it was able to be fixed. And they both talked about money. They both talked about Aaron Rodgers wanting to stay in Green Bay. So I really do think you're already seeing Rodgers and maybe the people around him start to backtrack and say, hey, if you set us up with some guaranteed money long term, this will go away. Maybe trade Jordan Love too. That wouldn't hurt.
Okay. And nobody talks about Jordan Love, the person in all this. What a tough way to enter the league and just be this like figure of divisiveness, and it has nothing to do with him. And if this is indeed all about money, and so much is in life and in sports, then yes, Packers, figure it out. Figure it out. Give the man what he wants, even if it feels like it's boxing yourself in, and maybe you do have to trade Jordan Love. But if that's not what this is about, if this is about something more, something personal, a grudge that Aaron Rodgers cannot get over, which I totally buy into, knowing his personality through the years, at least publicly, then take this as a nudge to trade the guy. I don't think that's an absolute absurd notion. Aaron Rodgers, and I know where we are in the NFL now, everyone plays at a high level into their 40s, which, by the way, is not true. It's just like one or two guys ever. You could trade a guy. He's turning 38 in December, okay? He's an MVP, okay? There are teams that would die to have Aaron Rodgers. If you have a chance to flip him for multiple first-round picks and maybe some star players right now, and you drafted a quarterback in the first round you believe in, hell, pull the trigger if the opportunity presents itself and consider it a gift from the football gods telling you to get out when the getting out is good.
I mean, that's the one point, though. They didn't go get this other quarterback that at some point is going to start. And the minute they got Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers started saying, I know that my time in Green Bay has an end point. And, Greg, I do agree that money is a big factor. But when I think about the person of Aaron Rodgers, there's no way it's the only factor. I mean, Dan, you mentioned someone that is prone to grudges. I would say that Aaron Rodgers is one of the more complex personalities in the NFL. And I don't think it just comes down to guaranteed moolah.
No, that's not the only thing. But I think Gutekunst and the Packers have mismanaged this. They didn't really warn him about it ahead of time. Who knows if they even warned their coach ahead of time. And supposedly, when they went to Aaron Rodgers this offseason, they first talked about moving around money instead of just guaranteeing him into the future, which made him even angrier. Still, though, the worst result, this is not like Belichick Brady. The worst result is him going and flying this year. Like, he's not like Belichick, who can let Brady leave and say, ooh, I just won 6 Super Bowls. I have that. Like, that would be the worst possible thing for Gutekunst and LaFleur. It would be their exit in Green Bay.
Yeah, but it happened with Favre too. He went to the Jets for a year, a pit stop, then went to the Vikings and he went flying. And guess what? The Packers survived as an organization. Does anybody think, because Aaron Rodgers is kind of scary, I would imagine, that they were just too afraid to tell him about the Jordan Love pick and that's why it didn't happen? It wasn't a miscommunication or a thoughtless move, but they were actually scared.
I think that's possible.
That doesn't bode well for them as management figures, but I buy it.
All right, we're just getting warmed up here. Coming up next on the broadcast, we did the Around the AFC and Around the NFC podcasts this week, and up next, you get a piece of that. The NFC West with Steve Weish coming up next on the broadcast. If you're new to us here on NFL Network, Around the NFL is also a podcast. Come on, plug in, tighten it up. Scan that QR code with your cell phone camera, and you could download our latest episode. Here's part of our conversation on the NFC West with the great Steve Wyche. All right, the NFC West, we close out starting with the San Francisco 49ers, Greg.
We all breathed a sigh of relief, at least I did, just that they drafted Trey Lance, because I want to watch this team. You look at the young players in almost every position group, except for maybe the secondary offensive line, and it's as good as any team, I think, in the league. Are we back to the point now, after what happened last year with all the injuries, that we see the 49ers as set up as well as any NFL team to contend for titles over the next 3 or 4 years? Are we there?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think I told you, a while back, I saw them as like a looming dynasty in the making. And look at, even last year, I'd point to some of their performances with all those injuries. Go watch their 2 games against the Rams. They took care of business. I mean, they're good inside their own division. They've got the best play caller in football. I think for me, it's Trey Lance, who is sort of an outlier in the amount of college production and work that he had versus some of these other guys. I mean, he wasn't used the way that some quarterbacks were, and I think he's a fascinating prospect, but it will be, interesting to see how quickly he develops. Or if he plays.
Yeah, look,
you got Jimmy G still.
Well, they're going to have to develop him, though, because Jimmy G is not durable. I mean, he has played in 30 games in 4 seasons with the Niners. That's why they had to go get a quarterback for the future, but also in case Jimmy goes down, because to Jimmy's credit, when he's not there, they lose. Right, so he is a good quarterback, but they've got to get Trey Lance ready in that regard. But otherwise, they're solid. I mean, they're. I'm with you when I say solid. They're set to rip off Super Bowls. They talk about D'Amico Ryans is going to be a pretty seamless transition as DC. We know Bosa's coming back. We know some of those injured players are coming back. If they can get a D-tackle from last year to step up, that defense is going to be okay.
Also,
they've just got to get their offense together, and they've got to stay healthy.
Also, no more excuses. I mean, this is
right.
Shanahan has one winning season there, and now you have, in addition to Garoppolo, you have this fallback plan within the season, and / he's the future potentially, and Trey Lance. One of those guys, whoever's on the field, if Shanahan's as good as everyone says, he should be a functional passer. or potentially dynamic. And then you look at both sides of the ball. There's so many great players, and they were so killed by injuries last year, even beyond Garoppolo. I have them at number 9 in the power rankings.
Wow.
So to me, they're a top 10 team, even coming off the 6-10 of last year, just because of the potential. It's all there. Now they just got to do it.
I think a lot of people would probably have them even higher. I don't even know. Like, just in terms of talent. They do have some little areas, interior offensive line. They don't really have a third receiver right now, which is surprising because Kyle Shanahan's usually all about that. Their secondary's been turned over, and it's a tough division. That's the thing that would worry me if they lose a lot to the Cardinals, so that's been a matchup problem, and then you got a really good division to try to get through.
The Arizona Cardinals with Mark Sessler.
All right, I have a 4-part question. All right, no, I don't. But our friend Jason Zumwalt, okay, a master voice over artist, a super Cardinals fan. He sent in the question where I'm going to ask you.
Great writer.
All of this work on the defense is great, he says. Getting more physical on both sides of the line is great. But if defenses only need to contain Kyler and bat down his passes, which is essentially what happened the last 7 games of last year, the question needs to be asked, is this offense just too short, height-wise? Andy Isabella, Christian Kirk. Now they've taken a 5'7" wide receiver, and of course Kyler himself. Is this basically going to be Pop Warner versus pros?
I like this. I just like it's like the old playground rules. The bigger kids are going to dominate. The smaller kids are going to have trouble. Now, you also got to factor in Kyler Murray's helmet, which is 4 feet tall. So that gets him to an average height. These are all the things you talk about.
Look, when you mention all those receivers, they just can't draft wide receivers. I mean, remember, they drafted 3 wideouts. 2 of them don't play, and Isabella is just a spot player. So that's why they go out and they trade for D-Hop, and they signed Reggie Wayne. So
AJ Green,
and they're not too short. Yeah, I mean,
let's hope AJ Green has a better time in Arizona than Reggie Wayne did in New England. Yeah,
right. So no, but AJ Green, but Kyler Murray's not too short. What they were doing was a lot of college stuff. Who got Kyler Murray's butt kicked, and that's why he had the shoulder injury. Was never the same after that. Defensively, they started to come on last year. They had a ton of injuries. Look, they're going to have Chandler Jones back, Marcus Golden on. You talk about a guy who's not talked about enough as a pass rusher. I think J.J. Watt will, at least by reputation, create a lot of attention so those guys can get free. So I think defensively, they're going to be better. They figure out what to do with Isaiah Simmons. But here's something to look at. Earlier Greg was talking about the Bears' front, leadership having hot butts. There's some warm butts down in Arizona. Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim are not coming into the season with a free pass. I've been told that the way that they finished last year and the fact that even though they won 3 more games, the way that they finished did not sit well.
Ooh, not sit well with Bidwell. How about that?
That's right. So we'll see, in the toughest division in football, top to bottom, how things play out.
Up next, the Los Angeles Rams, Steve Weish.
And they're probably going to be coming in, I'm assuming, in the top 4 of Dan Hanzus' group because the Matthew Stafford trade. And this is now, okay, Sean McVay, if you are that
7.
dude, 7. Ooh, okay.
Okay.
He's got the Jets
if you're
at
that
4,
dude,
so.
and you could stretch the field. Okay, we went on got you to Sean Jackson. Stretch the field with him. We've got great underneath receivers. We've got some talent in running back with Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson. Oh, the offensive line. How good is it? I mean, you're really managing a lot of guys up there. They feel that they can do some things. Remember, Aaron Cromer is gone. They have taken so many hits to great coaches on their staff. Now, I know Raheem Morris replaces Brandon Staley, but losing Aubrey Pleasant, their defensive backs coach, to Detroit is a major hit. Jalen Ramsey will tell you that. So they're great at developing and procuring players, maybe the best team in the NFL. So you may see a lot of names on defense that you don't necessarily recognize. They'll coach them up. They are masterful so far at doing that. But again, everything is going to hinge on Matthew Stafford, how quickly he adapts, and if this offense can be new. I don't want to say it can resemble what they did the Super Bowl years. It has to be different because defenses have caught up.
Right. Well, and it has to be better than it was a year ago by a lot because you can't expect the defense to be where it was. That was a special season, and they had Seattle's number. Like, that's not going to repeat in the same way. I just like that it's being framed as like, well, here's the season we finally learned about Matthew Stafford. for the 9th straight season. It's like now it's like a new version, but next season it'll be, well, that was his first season adjusting to Los Angeles. Here's the season we finally find out.
Isn't he
about
just
Matthew
like really
Stafford.
good?
Yeah,
he's
right.
not necessarily great, but like definitely good enough to be on a title contending.
He's got to be
team.
better than that to be worth, I think, the trade. He's got to be like a top 5 or 6 type of guy.
But that would be my question too, because like it's a severe upgrade over Jared Goff, and I love that they were bold and daring and just went for it and they got it done. But Matthew Stafford, a lot of things to like, but is he being a little overrated here, that they're just going to plug him into this offense and the Rams are a Super Bowl team?
I'm fascinated to see it. I don't know. I really don't know. But I'm excited to see him in a new place. Yeah,
I think so. They went to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff, a young Jared Goff that year is not as good as Matthew Stafford in an average year.
Finally, the Seattle Seahawks. Did you know that the Seahawks made just 3 picks in the entire draft? That's tough. That's a tough one. And there's only been 5 teams since 1967 that have had that few amount of picks. Their first pick, 56th overall, was a wide receiver, Dwayne Extridge, and that's good because they were a little thin after DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, but Russell Wilson came out and was, honking this offseason. I can't get hit so much. There was really no true investment in the offensive line that I saw. Is this just setting the stage for more drama around Seattle where the team might not be better, the offensive line might not be better, Wilson's probably not going to change his game, so he'll keep getting hit, and this time next year, they're another, they win 10 or 11 games, don't go to the Super Bowl, and more bad blood bubbles up.
I mean,
did they get Gabe Jackson? Did they trade for Gabe Jackson?
Yeah, he's on the roster.
Yeah, so I mean, so they did make some investment.
Okay.
Gabe Jackson's still a pretty good player at guard, and they've got to get better at guard so they can run the ball. That's what, everything is going to be set up off the run, and they got some pieces. It's just going to be interesting how their new OC, Shane Waldron, is going to implement an offense. Now you have every OC/head coach in this division running the same system. Because Shane Waldron comes from McVay, right? He comes from the Rams.
It's weird.
Every head coach OC is going to run the same system. So they're going to be practicing against the same schemes.
The NFL,
Nothing is going to look unfamiliar. So now is when the players, the smart players, the tough players, and the guys who can execute under duress are really going to shine. And that's where Russell Wilson gets the nod over any quarterback in this division.
But he couldn't figure out the Rams last year. You want to talk to some height truthers? They're out there in Seattle, or at least in this division. The Rams, I think, believe that Wilson's height was a problem going up against their defensive line, that he could not, that they muddied it up enough with their big front line, and the 49ers have a very similar approach, and so does Arizona, that in this division, Murray and Wilson have to be outside of the pocket sometimes to be able to see over the middle. There were times last year where Wilson did not seem like he knew what was going on. It has been totally overlooked how poorly he played the second half of last season. It was all blamed on the offensive line.
Our podcast is better than yours. All right, coming up next, teams who should be in primetime. The schedule release is coming up next week. We tell you who deserves to get those island games up next. We are just days away from finding out the 2021 NFL schedule. When does Tom Brady head back to Foxborough? Who's playing on Thanksgiving? And when will your team face its arch rival? All of those questions will be answered this Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern on NFL Network and ESPN2. All right. Biggest season ever, they call it. Well, there's more games. I like what they did there. All right. Speaking of primetime, boys. Okay. We know there's certain teams that are always in primetime, whether they deserve to be or not. This is going to be about who just deserves it. Who should be there? And I'll get going on this. And I'll start with the Buffalo Bills, who are so fun to watch, especially on offense, with Josh Allen coming off an MVP level season. And then think about this. And we know with the COVID-19 restrictions, you see it in MLB and the NBA, we're starting to get more fans back in the arenas and the stadiums. I wonder if there's going to be full houses in the NFL. Imagine up there in Buffalo in Western New York, just going nuts for a Bills team as fun as this. So throw the Bills in there with their high-scoring offense, Josh Allen and all his magic, and then a full house in Buffalo. Put that under the lights. And then I'll throw the Jacksonville Jaguars out there as well. When you tell me that there is a generational quarterback talent entering the NFL, Trevor Lawrence, if he's that special, let's see him. Put him under the lights, and let's see how the Jags go from 1-15 to potentially a playoff contender if this guy is as good as everyone thinks.
I mean, the Jags, they've been buried at 1 p.m. Eastern for like 14 years, but that should change. And the Bills, they could lead the NFL in primetime games. We'll see.
They were close to it last year. There's always like a progression. The Bills last year, it's like, okay, you're getting some Monday, Thursday. Now they're gonna get some Sunday. They're gonna get Thursday. They're gonna get maxed out. The Jaguars, you got to be careful. I bet we'll see an early Thursday night game, but you got to be a little worried that they're 5-10 at the end of the season. So like load up on Trevor
we can
Lawrence
flex
early.
We have flexibility here, of course. So, but You're right though. Let's get them a little earlier on the schedule. How about you, Mark?
Well, I'd start with the Bears because the Bears were put on prime time when they shouldn't have been. And now I think when you've got Justin Fields, why not? And, I'd look at something here that I think about if you're Allen Robinson, who's had like Laurel and Hardy throwing passes to him his whole career. I mean, there's going to be a whole new energy in Chicago. And then my second team, I'd go Jets because the Jets, you got Zach Wilson, you've got Robert Saleh, who, he's going to be pumping his fists, maximizing that defense. And Mike LaFleur, who's bringing the best offensive scheme in the NFL to New York, and he could have like Holly Hobby running for 150 yards a game. So I think the Jets are going to be completely different. Not an eyesore as in the past. Totally exciting. Dan, you're going to have some night games to watch, I hope.
Well, it's interesting. The Jets, because they're a New York team, they still do get some primetime love, but they get put in the bad team getting primetime. So they'll get a Thursday night game. They'll get a Monday night game. I want that Sunday night football slot. If you're a Jet fan, you haven't seen the Jets on Sunday Night Football in 10 years, and with good reason. Greg?
Every show it's, Mark's got to pump up the Jets, and then Dan's going to pump up the Browns. It's just like this weird passive-aggressive love fest because they're both not going to be great this year. And, by the way, the Bears probably aren't going to be great either. I'm not falling for this one. You asked for that, Mark. We're going to have Andy Dalton in primetime in Week 13.
I'm on the fence.
Greg, you are an ultra buzzkill. Let's just, please.
All right. Well, let's go with
this guy at my party.
We'll be great in primetime. It's the Chargers. Of course, it's the Chargers. It's my guy, Justin Herbert. This is my favorite time of year. It's hype season for the Chargers. Like from May to August every year, I believe. I jumped off the train for 1 year because they got rid of Phillip Rivers. And who do they bring in? The best young quarterback, I think, rookie quarterback of the last 20 years. It's weird. I think Herbert's almost overlooked right now as like the face of the NFL in the future. I am worried the Chargers could blow this at some point, but I want to see him in primetime as much as possible. I'll throw out the Dolphins too because they've been greater than the sum of their parts in each of the last 2 seasons. Just like a fun team that plays fun games, a marauding defense that really plays good team football. So throw the Dolphins, at least give them a couple. But the Chargers is the one. Just max out with Herbert.
Just promise me if we put the Dolphins in prime time that Tua is throwing longer than 4 yards on his passes. Can we open up that offense a little bit? Please.
But think about that game last year that you were probably a little frustrated with him against the Raiders. Ended up being a great game. I'm just saying most of those Dolphins games over the last 2 years, they've caught your fancy,
because they
Mark, just as a team that's fun to watch.
But Greg, it's because they put in Fitzmagic last year. They don't have him anymore. He's in Washington.
It's the defense. We got some deep receivers too.
You need Tua to make a leap. But if that doesn't happen, they're not going to be fun to watch. I'm with you on Justin Herbert. Greg, I don't know why you keep dropping these lines like you're worried the Chargers are going to ruin him or whatever. It's like Brandon Staley's I like Brandon Staley a lot, and I think the Chargers are going to be, they're like a sneaky AFC title appearance type team if things fly.
Don't worry, Greg.
I
You're
mean,
not
they
the only
ruined
one that
Rivers,
thinks
that's
Justin
why.
Herbert is special. Like, we're excited about it. This is good.
Right.
All right, coming up next, back to our Around the NFL special, Around the AFC this time, this week on the podcast. What a week of shows it was. And we study the AFC West with the great Patrick Claybon. Wow, what an all-star roster we're rolling out here. We have the best podcast, I'm telling you. Back on Around the NFL, and earlier this week on the podcast, we went around the entire AFC in 48 minutes exactly with our buddy Patrick Claybon. Scan that code with your phone to hear the whole thing. Here's a portion of our conversation on the AFC West, starting with the Denver Broncos.
This is one of the tougher teams to evaluate right now because we just don't know where we're going to be down the road. Are they going to go get a quarterback? If they don't get Aaron Rodgers, then they're the team that is going to be tough. It's going to be tough press. Broncos fans, I lived in Denver, are super passionate, and they are on fire about the fact that you passed up the chance to put Justin Fields into a really awesome-looking offense. That right now, you're a front office that's basically saying our vision to battle Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert inside of our own division is to roll out Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater. Patches, middle of the road guys. One of them who's proven nothing. So I just can't believe that that's how a front office actually thinks in 2021, especially with one attached to John Elway, always looking for quarterbacks. The way that they organize their draft, I like Patrick Surtain, but the way they organize their draft makes me think that they think they can get Aaron Rodgers. And I don't think this story is over. I would just wonder, is this a bunch of hogwash? I know it's the most obvious question for the Broncos, but come September, is Rodgers in orange, or is that a pipe dream and they're stuck with Drew or Teddy?
Teddy comeback season, 2021. Yeah,
We're with you.
it's not over. I can't
Greg,
believe he's
Greg,
getting a better.
it
He's
is
getting a better
literally-
chance.
it is literally
Time
the
out
most
right
annoying
now. Let's
thing
use
on our
the third
podcast.
time out.
It is
Let's
literally the
use
most
third
annoying
ti-
thing on our podcast.
I mean,
Go ahead, Greg.
The you and Teddy thing, and he's proving your argument wrong year after year.
he
fair.
really has. Last year, he made major mistakes in crucial situations, which was red zone and fourth quarter, which is important. he was a pretty productive, like lower to middle of the road
like
passer.
An agenda
certainly,
because he's not being like, let's grade him
because I
for
like
what he is.
players.
He's a totally
like it's
middle
the
of
way
pack
Dan
quarterback.
overrates the Jets every year. Like I like certain players and I root for them. That's
why
part of
am
what's
I
being
catching
fun.
sniper fire on this? Why don't you, if you're fighting with Mark,
Yes.
say something nasty about Mark? Don't
Right.
bring
It's
me
not
into it.
nasty. I'm saying, like, of course, there's players I root for. He's a likable person who, to me, has a more fun style than people think. That I thought had a chance. He's obviously a middle
Greg,
of the road starting
you're too smart
quarterback.
football guy to factor in that he's a nice guy. We all know Teddy's a great teammate and a nice guy.
But it doesn't matter. That doesn't affect how I root for him. And he has been like significantly better than Drew Lock has ever been at multiple points in his career, including when he was with George Payton, which I kind of
true of
forgot
almost
about back
every
in
starter
Minnesota.
in the league, though. That isn't
Right.
really an argument for Teddy Bridgewater as your answer. That's all.
It's
they
just
had
an
Justin
argument
Fields
for
sitting in their lap, and they said we'd rather have Teddy Bridgewater and or Drew Lock.
I killed them.
Find that
I killed them
beguiling.
for that. I killed them for that. All I'm saying is I'm recognizing the situation where they are right now. And Teddy is their best chance to start games, and he is their best chance. Like, whether you like it or not, he's going to be starting games this year.
I guess
it
my point,
appears.
My point is there were better options than Teddy to upgrade from Drew Lock. Maybe he's an upgrade over Lock, but from what we've seen, is he going to be a huge upgrade? A significant
They didn't
upgrade?
prioritize it. They didn't, because even them, they're paying him.
How do you
they're
not
paying him-
prioritize the
I know.
quarterback position in the NFL?
I'm surprised.
Who are the better
surprised.
options right now?
Well, now
None.
the horse is out of
None,
the
none.
barn.
I think that's ultimately Greg's point, right? It's got to be Teddy, and we saw a new offense, right? A first year for that offense, and Teddy Bridgewater in his first year in that offense. He's not going to get like a sustained chance to be somewhere for long, but I would like to see Teddy Bridgewater to have an opportunity to grow in an offense, right? The Packers were bailing on Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is going to the Hall of Fame, right?
Well,
it's bailing on Aaron Rodgers after the first year in a new offense.
Here's what
Go
bugs
ahead,
me:
Mark.
the timing of it. Okay, look it. You could have traded for Teddy Bridgewater after you didn't get the quarterback in the draft. If you're trying to tell me that the way to galvanize your fan base and your own offense is to say that it's smarter to trade for Teddy Bridgewater days before the draft and then pass on Justin Fields, who lands in our lap, who is undoubtedly, I think, to the common eye or
course.
the analytical eye, more exciting.
We all wanted that. I
Right. But then
wanted that.
How there's no defending
Well,
the Broncos.
and
They
to-
totally
and to-
botched
there's no
this.
defending that.
Claybon, to your point, the Panthers wanted Teddy Bridgewater to have an extended stay in Carolina. Look at the contract they gave him. They set him up with a great offensive head coach in Matt Rule. They didn't like what he brought to the table, and they said we're getting rid of him. Like he had a chance there.
He moved the ball very well and was a disaster in high leverage situations in the red zone in the fourth quarter.
Well, that's what
But
you
you
look
say that
for.
as if it's a positive when you're
No,
analyzing
I
the
don't.
game.
But if let's put it this way, if Teddy Bridgewater even gave them the offense passing wise that the Panthers had last year's Broncos would have gone to the playoffs. They were like 18th, 19th in DVOA in terms of passing. The Broncos were 30th, and that's sort of the thing they're hoping for, is to be middle of the road.
Hey, by the way, watch out, Greg. You got the Sessler eyes came out there for you at one point when you were waxing poetic.
I get it. He doesn't like Teddy. I
don't
enjoy
like Teddy
watching
being
football by having
unfairly
different players
inflated.
that I root for.
Enough with inflating Teddy.
No
Like,
one
let's just-
was saying anything. No one
Greg
was saying he's an
Mark,
average
this will make you feel
starter.
better. Greg was proven wrong once about Teddy Bridgewater. It will happen once again in 2021.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Now I gotta have to rally the troops. Teddy Nation coming
All right,
back
let's.
strong.
All right, time in. The Los Angeles Superchargers, Patrick Claybon.
All right, so hope always seems to come back with regards to fan bases and beliefs to this quarterback thing. And from what we saw in 2020, there's a lot of reason to feel great about it. Like we had people describing Trevor Lawrence as Justin Herbert plus. And I think, as much as that could be a slight to Justin Herbert, seeing as he did it at a professional level, I think it speaks to how people feel about him. And, if prioritizing continuity for an offense and a quarterback that seemed promising is a way to go, it seems weird that the people behind that progress are now elsewhere in Los Angeles, or not in Los Angeles, they're just elsewhere in general. But anyway, my question surrounds the head coach, right, and the man that's own players have classified as a genius. So he's got two players in Los Angeles who I would argue are singularly talented with regards to the rest of the league. That was the foundation of a defense. In one of them, I think, is going to the Hall of Fame, in Aaron Donald, right? And then there's Jalen Ramsey. So now, can he do similar things on this defense using Derwin James, perhaps, and Joey Bosa, or does he need that high-level talent to be successful?
Well, those are two potential Hall of Famers too. I know it's a long, long, long way to go, and Derwin James has to stay healthy. That's like the key to this team to me. But those are two of the very best at what they do. The hype is back. I'm buying in. The first two picks the Chargers had filled huge needs with their tackle and then Asante Samuel in the second round. Like, I'm buying in because I would take Justin Herbert over Trevor Lawrence in a second. I would take Justin Herbert over every single young quarterback in the league not named Patrick Mahomes. I'm worried about the Raiders because I think a strong case could be made that the two most important people in their organization this year are Gus Bradley and Tom Cable. They're putting a lot of faith in those two guys because otherwise I don't see it. Like, you're counting on Tom Cable to coach up this offensive line. There's only one new starter. The two guys that are elevating, like, they know those two, Denzel Good, and I forget the other one off the top of my head, but, like, they've been there. There's only one guy that wasn't with the team. And then they've poured all these draft picks and all this free agent money into the defense. But ultimately, it's like Gus Bradley just has to be way better than what they were doing before, or else there's not much reason to think this team will be any better.
I mean, Gus Bradley needs to be better than Gus Bradley. That's sort of the problem. He's not, he keeps getting jobs, but like his defenses have not been marvelous by any stretch.
I mean, the players, and he's a DC. There's only so much you could do. Like, sometimes I wonder with these DCs and even the coordinators. Most of them anyway. It's like if you don't give them the guys to play with, if you don't give them the chess pieces, there's only so much you could do. And a lot of that, I think, goes back to this front office. And the draft stuff gets a little annoying to me. And I did power rankings this week, so I do a lot of reading and trying to learn about some different things. And you see all these grades, and they're all over the map. But there are certain teams that every analyst feels safe just banging with an F. And that's where the Raiders are right now, that everything they do is viewed as bad. But until some of these like unorthodox picks hits, you understand why they're not being given the benefit of the doubt. We close with the defending AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs couldn't protect Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, and they got their heinies whipped as a result. And I just have so much respect for Brett Veach and that organization. A little bit jealous that they said this is a need, and we could have waited because part of the reason they got destroyed in the Super Bowl is they weren't healthy on the offensive line. It wasn't just that these guys couldn't play; they were missing their tackles, and it was just everything was. They were missing some interior guys. It was just kind of patchwork. So they could have said, "Let's get healthy. Let's bring back our guys, get healthy, and go for it again." So I respect that they just said, "No, we want to make this a team strength again." Orlando Brown, Joe Tooney. You bring Kyle Long out of retirement. We'll see how that goes. But in theory, it makes sense. Creed Humphrey, they took with the 63rd overall pick. Everybody's saying he's going to be awesome in the pivot. So I look at this team. They took this weakness, turned it into a strength. And I look at a 17-game season. How are they not a 13-plus win team? And how is anyone else going to contend for that top seed in the AFC? I just think they're the heavy favorite in the AFC after what they've done.
I mean, let's not forget they put up 38 points weeks earlier against the Bills. It was that the Super Bowl was, it couldn't have gone better for the Bucs, who were a worthy Super Bowl champion, but there was an obvious Achilles heel to what Kansas City wanted to do with, their protection not there, not on the field. It's kind of funny because I look back on all the Super Bowl preview coverage, not just our show, but everyone's show, and it's just like, not enough. I don't remember anyone being like, the Chiefs are screwed because they have both of their tackles out. It was just like Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, and it's like, it doesn't work with three linemen, and they totally patched. I think Orlando Brown was an awesome signing an awesome trade by them. I mean, it just, again, it turned it into a strength, like you said, Dan.
And remember, their offseason began being rebuffed to get Trent Williams. So it wasn't like everything fell into place. They had to regroup after that, and they still managed to get the job done. Can you believe that podcast is actually free? You could listen to that and not even have to pay for it. Check it out. Up next, rookie man crushes. Who we fallen in love with before they even play a snap in our league. Copyright Frank.
Okay, Cleveland, time to get this rolling. The 2021 NFL Draft is now officially open.
You ready to roll?
Steve, we're going to kill everyone.
Trevor Lawrence, quarterback, Clemson. Kyle Pitts, Quiddy Pay.
I've been preparing for this moment for years.
Every day we're going to come in and give our best, and we ready.
Wow, it is.
There it is.
Mac Jones.
Wow! Let's go!
Michael Parsons. Woo!
We're going to get someone that's going to get their all for this team. Let's get it.
Oh, Rob's back. Oh, I hope he's okay. Man, the draft is a hope season. Optimism is everywhere. Who are some of these rookies that are entering the league that we really, really love? I'll start with you, Greg.
I'm going to start with Zaven Collins. I can't repeat what he said to his general manager, but I don't doubt him for 1 minute. He looks like he's from the year 2043. He's 270 pounds like you expect. Okay, is that an edge rusher? No, it's like a middle linebacker like Darius Leonard, who's 55 pounds younger. He looks like he's playing with little men. Like, I just can't wait to watch this guy. I'm all about it, and I'm buying all the hype with Zaven Collins.
I don't think you went further enough in the future to sell that he's from another generation. It's like 20 years from now. Mark, you're up.
I'll go Rashad Bateman, the Ravens' first-round wide receiver pickup. Our friend Nate Tice loves him. And you know the one thing about him, I view him as kind of one of the biggest X factors in the AFC North, because they definitely need someone to come in and help expand that passing game, which Greg Roman this week said, that's our plan, not just late in games, not just late in the season, but we want to be a little bit of a different offense. He's got a big catch radius that helps with Lamar Jackson, sometimes, not on point passes. I think he's going to be really productive and have a huge role for the Ravens offense right out of the gate.
I kind of struggle to have a crush on anything involving the Ravens passing game, but maybe Bateman changes everything.
Fair point.
I'll throw out Kyle Pitts, and I know it's basic because he's the fourth overall pick, but I love generational talents, and that's why I love rooting, even though I'm a Knicks fan, for LeBron James. And my dad doesn't like LeBron; he thinks he's arrogant and all this other stuff. I love LeBron because you want to see the best doing it at the highest level. And when they say that Kyle Pitts could be the best tight end prospect in NFL history, I got a crush. I'm sold. I want to see what he can do in an Arthur Smith offense with a MVP quarterback in Matt Ryan. Back to you, Greg.
Yeah, I'm with you because he's the type of guy, almost like Kevin Durant, in the NBA, or Cam Newton, who makes you think differently about what people that size can do. Zaven Collins is another guy like that. My second pick is a little more conventional. It's Javonte Williams, who made more tacklers miss than any college football player PFF has ever tracked, especially in tight spaces. He reminds me of Frank Gore. You think you're going to get him down for a 2-yard loss, he ends up picking up 6. Play after play, this guy breaks tackles. I think he's going to round out that offense with your boy, Mark, Teddy Bridgewater at the helm.
Oh boy. Well,
just imagine if the Broncos had a real quarterback, what they could do. What a ceiling they'd have. Mark.
I'll throw out Caleb Farley, and I know that there are issues with the medicals and the back, but I get the man crush on the people who were ignored. I think if he were healthier, they would have been one of the best cornerbacks in the draft. And the Titans had the 29th pass defense. They were the worst team in the league against third downs. It's like Caleb Farley, if healthy, is an exciting player and come in and change that defense.
I don't believe this. I don't believe that you have a man crush on Titans cornerback Caleb Farley. I just don't buy it.
Well, you have to buy it. I'm telling you right now. That's exactly
you
how I feel.
Something on a TV show, you got to come up with an answer. He did draft Farley for the Browns on that mock draft show. So
Bingo.
Maybe he wishes he got him. He wishes he had
Bingo.
him.
Finally, I'll throw out Jets wide receiver Elijah Moore. I am in. Listen to these college stats in 8 games against the Power 5 schedule. 86 catches, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns in 8 games. And I know it's college and it's different than the pros, but this kid is a playmaker. Jets haven't had one of those in a long time. All right. That's a man crush, Sessler.
Had to get the Jets in there.
Well, they are my favorite team, and I'm on the show. All right. Coming up, weekend vibes. How we're feeling before we head into the weekend. Want to know when your favorite team is taking the field in 2021 or when draft picks are making their debuts? Find out in just a few days when the NFL releases its 2021 schedule. The whole thing will be revealed on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern on NFL Network and ESPN2. All right, let's get to it. Weekend vibes. I'll get going. Let's start with life comes at you fast. A little lesson here. Remember Le'Veon Bell? Remember Todd Gurley?
Yeah.
These are two of the great running backs of the last 10 years. These guys were legit superstars on a Hall of Fame path. And in one case, it's injury for Gurley. With Bell, it was a misguided notion to take a year back, and he never came back as the same guy. But they're still unemployed. And it just makes me wonder, are their careers over? These were special, transcendent Hall of Fame talents, and now they can't even get a job.
Depressing.
It's a little rough.
Well, that's my weekend vibe. It's a very low-key, depressing vibe. Greg, how about you?
Mine is much more joyful because we didn't have enough Teddy Bridgewater in this show. Let's have some more. Let's actually kick it back to a month ago in this very segment. I'm vibing in the Rocky Mountains, which is where I hope Teddy Bridgewater goes this year. I love this Denver Broncos team, but they haven't brought any quarterback competition for Drew Lock. They said they were going to do it last year. It was Jeff Driscoll. They got Brett Rippon right now. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater's, the best quarterback in the league, but he's an adult in the room. He's better than Drew Lock. All you need is average quarterback play. I think this team goes to the playoffs if they get Teddy on the cheap. Let's do it.
Greg.
See, they're listening to us. They're listening to. Thank you, John Elway. Thank you, George Payton, and no thank you to the wardrobe department. I'm wearing the same shirt here as I was a month ago. I need to step.
Imagine,
Mark. See, Teddy's great.
You are a one-trick pony. This is like the 8th time in the show that this subject has come up. You have other streams of income coming in.
Imagine being an organization where it's sort of like, oh wait, Drew Lock stinks. We need to get better. Let's get Teddy Bridgewater.
Let's watch the weekend vibes and see what Rosenthal says to do. Okay, let's do that.
Mark, finish us up.
All right, look, my vibe is a little agitated. We all know about this Roger Goodell portrait that hung in the Rams draft house. Very well done, actually. And I like paintings. I thought to myself, I'd like to have this. And they put it up for auction, and it was sold for about $2,600. It's very nice. It went to the Rams Foundation. But again, I have paintings in my house. I wanted this. And, Dan and Greg know that I have these interests. Why did they not even put up a bid? No money on my behalf. I like gifts. The two of you just skated by on your day yesterday while the auction was happening. Thanks a million.
Wait, you wanted the Goodell, or you wanted us to sell your drawings, your Star Wars drawings on Instagram? No. You can go get them free on Instagram. No. We'll discuss this at another time.
All I can say is I'm sorry, Mark. I didn't connect the dots there. Thank you for watching the broadcast. We'll be back next week, and make sure you watch listen to the Around the NFL podcast next week. Till then.